First of all, you don't know me.
We're all about that high school drama, girl, all about them high school queens.
Always and forever.
We'll take you for a ride in our comic girl,
Drama girl.
cheering for the right team. Drama queens, smart girl, rough girl, fashion but you're tough girl. You could sit with us, girl. Drama queens, drama queens, drama queens. Drama queens, drama queens.
Oh, hello, everybody.
Hey,
we
hello.
survived another week.
Episode 3.
I have no recollection of that episode, so watching it was really fun and kind of voyeuristic because watching the whole Nathan Haley thing unfold was brand new for me.
Yeah, that was exciting. It was fun to see it from this perspective rather than from just being, and I had sense memory. I didn't have a lot of it the last 2 episodes, but this one I had a lot of sense memory of being there. I remembered sitting at that table. I remembered the whole Cracker Jack scene. And I forgot that it was in this episode. I thought that happened later. I thought she was like, I agree to tutor you. And then later he did that. So that was kind of cool. That was fun to see.
Did you have any idea in the moment that little bench was going to become a cultural icon in downtown Wilmington?
Never in a million years did I think that.
I mean, how many people have proposed at that bench? The photos we see of engagements and people there with their babies, and it's so cool. And
Their baby's named Haley.
I know.
And to see it's just this beautiful 2-shot. The DP got it just right, and whatever time of day you guys did it, it was like magic hour, the reflection of sunset in the water, or I guess it would have been sunrise because it was supposed to be 7 a.m.
Yeah.
It's just so pretty.
It was iconic.
It was so beautiful, the way the water was glowing and everything. And then the fact that Nathan looks at her and says that line, "Don't say I never gave you anything." I mean, that is the line that fans quote to me more. You were saying your art matters is the one that you get all the time, Hilarie. That's the one that I get all the time. "Don't say I never gave you anything." It just it meant so much to people. And I also clocked, which I don't know that I clocked it when we were filming, but Haley's still wearing the bracelet at the end of the night. She didn't take it off. Why didn't she take it off?
That gave me shivers a little bit because it made me wonder, had Haley ever had a little boyfriend in middle school? Had Haley ever had that deep flirtation before? Was this the first boy that was, I don't know. Did you guys have a conversation about that?
We didn't, but I do remember thinking that and feeling like this is the first, that's why she's getting drawn in, even though she's trying to be a good friend and, just do the right thing and help someone who's in need. I mean, the captain of the basketball team, is that the word? The lead?
So handsome.
I still don't know basketball terms, but
Touchdown.
Shooting
Touchdown
that
guy.
touchdown. That's
so Haley in that moment.
Funny.
Yeah, I think you hit it. That's it.
Speaking of things that were incredibly authentic, what I like about our show is that there's nothing cool. The hazing takes place in someone's mom's minivan.
Yeah. And they just throw him in a puddle. That's it.
It's the worst. It's the worst that they do.
We got you wet and dirty. What?
They soaked his clothes with water in his locker.
Was it water or was it pee? Do we know?
I don't know. That would have been worse because I'll tell you what, I had bullies in 6th grade and they put dog shit in my locker. And that was horrendous. And
Your 6th grade bullies were harder than teenage
This
boys
is what I'm
in
saying.
this episode.
Oh my God.
I mean, I was in Jersey, so maybe that's part of it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. That's all they did was push him in a puddle.
You look so cute with your little barrettes in this
Pigtails.
episode. Yeah. Was that your idea to do pigtails?
I have no idea. I don't remember that at all.
I feel like it must
You
have
know
been.
it was.
It probably was. And those
Our
little
bosses
barrettes.
were always like, just wear your hair down.
Oh, yeah. I was like, no, I want her to look really sweet and innocent. She did. It worked. I mean, it
worked.
Even just that last shot of Haley and Lucas on the bench. And I saw what a baby face I was and just the innocence and sort of what I caught a moment of the appeal that everybody loved about Nathan and Haley, that it was so young. We were so young and feeling so many big things.
And there was such a purity to it.
Yeah.
The way that you held Haley's experience and held that choice, and for this noble idea of saving your friend, sort of, took on something that you were afraid of. It was just so fun to watch.
It was fun. Well,
let's talk about the acting range, though, Joy, because my favorite thing on the internet is that montage that one of your fans cut together of all your kissing scenes from when you were on a soap opera.
Oh,
it was like the sexiest ever. It was so passionate and intense, and you did it as like a teenager, and that was all pre One Tree Hill.
Yeah.
So then to see you flip that switch and just be the most pure little angel on the planet. I was like, this girl knows what she's doing. I love it.
Oh, it's so fun. I had so much fun with Haley. Like, what a cool character. By the way, talk about having fun. Brooke was like a ball in this episode.
Sheeta print.
My face is still red, you guys. Like, look at me and look at you. I'm very red. Oh my God. It was such a weird, like when you had that moment at the dock and you were like, oh, this scene. I popped up out of Lucas's backseat and I went, oh God, this scene. Oh no. Like I couldn't even look at it. And I remember, and Hilarie, you called me out. You were like, you went from all girls school to this. I was like, listen, I can't talk about it. Like I remember being in there and like understanding. They were like, you're doing this thing and you've really got to try to seduce him. And they just like kept telling me to be sexier. They were like, well, everything you say should be, an invitation. And I look back and I'm like, oh God, a bunch of creepy old dudes wrote this and then like told me what their fantasy was. God. I don't know about this.
You're 21? Could you sex this up? That'd be great.
Yeah,
exactly. Could you just really, with every word you say, suggest that you'd like to have intercourse with this person?
Wait, so waiting in the back seat is one. Waiting in the back seat is one thing. But did you girls in high school ever change in the back seat of a car with a boy, like a boy that you liked that was driving or whatever?
No.
Really?
No.
I did.
No. What? Joy? Yeah, you were kissing on TV with all that skill.
No,
are you serious?
Yeah.
Well, again, God, it's so nerdy. I went to an all-girls school, dudes. Like, I was driving around with girls all the time.
Yeah.
I did get, though, being a camp counselor, very good at doing a full change in my sleeping bag, like in a cabin, because I felt weird about, like, taking my clothes off around kids that weren't mine. Even though I was in charge of them. So I would change in my sleeping bag and just pop out.
I definitely changed in cars all the time, but never with a boy.
Really?
Ever. Yeah. Who'd you change in front of?
I remember a couple of times there was one, I remember in particular, this boy that I kind of liked, but we just had to go somewhere and I was like, I got to change. But listen, part of it being a theater kid, I was so comfortable going backstage and there's quick changes and you don't think twice about it. And it's not like your body. It's like your body. You just got to change.
But did you do dance too?
I did. Yeah.
So there's a body awareness that dancers have that clunky people like me are always kind of mystified by. Like, wow, they know what, their joints are supposed to do.
Yeah, but I remember feeling, I also, my boobs were developing. It was high school. Like I was getting attention from boys. It was like, there was all kinds of other things going on.
Is that when you were
too,
doing your Mariah Carey thing, wearing hoop earrings? And
oh yeah, that full on dark liner with the frosty lip.
Yep.
And
the 90s.
So hold on, real life and then TV life, Brooke and Joy, or Brooke and Haley, and then Sophia and Joy flip-flopped. Like
a little bit.
Joy's changing with dudes. Sophia's an all-girl, and now Sophia's slutting it up on the show. They took this episode to paint you two as polar opposites.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They really did. Yes.
They really did. And I will say the thing that that I loved that we got, which thinking about, again, who was writing all this stuff for us, it seems even more like a miracle now. But Hill, when we had the scene, in the hallway and like Brooke gets her bra back from Lucas and then you come and, chase me out. Yeah. And I watched myself like be more myself. Like she was just a kid who was like, no, I think he's just nice. And you could see that was such a change for her and something that made her feel so excited. And that seemed like innocent and youthful to me. And then she switches it right back. Like that's the thing I'm remembering now watching is that Brooke Davis, when she would let her real feelings come out, would always cover it with like it's going to be great when he sleeps with me. It's going to be, try to resist.
By the way, Brooke actually kind of came off to me as a virgin in this episode. Like she's it's
a lot of big talk.
Yeah. Like she's really trying to make everybody think something that's actually not true for whatever reason's going on in her personal life.
But that's the whole thing is her through this first season, especially what I had to find for her was that she was actually just a really scared little kid who desperately was seeking validation anywhere that she could get it and was very willing to play the part of like, I have it all together when she didn't feel like that. So I
a lot of girls out there feel that way.
When we do merch, let's make a promise, okay? I want Joy to make these little bracelets, but out of like rose quartz and like amethyst. Like let's class them up.
I wrote it down.
Did you? And then I need a Brooke Davis cheetah bra in my life. Like why don't I have one?
I don't know.
Girl, I want them pushed up.
Backseat
Brooks bras.
Yeah. I feel like those would sell.
I'm so in.
I'm into it.
Yeah.
Guys, email us and tell us what you think. Would you buy your backseat leopard bra and a fancy Cracker Jack bracelet?
I'm thinking
email
like
iHeart
a very
and tell us.
chic charm bracelet. You know what I mean?
What's our email address at iHeart? dramaqueens@iheartradio.com.
There it is. The other thing that stood out to me so big from the back seat, actually, there'd be a silver lining there. But when I had to lean over and say, how many moments can you point to and say, that's when it all changed?
Yeah. Perfect.
And I keep asking him if he can feel it. Like, can you feel it? Everything changed for you today. And then you keep seeing these moments where it all changes for each of us. Peyton gets her artwork accepted at Thud and then also defends her artistic thesis.
Yeah.
Haley turns around and there's Nathan in the tutoring office and he says, I need you to tutor me. Like we had these moments that we can point to for each of our characters.
And when Lucas looks at Brooke and says, you don't have to act this way, and he's the first guy that's ever said that to you.
Yeah.
We all had those little moments.
Yeah.
And it was the beginning of seeing Brooks as sort of the voice of wisdom that she eventually became and grew more and more into.
Oh, I love that.
It was cool.
It was really good. And what I love is the foreshadowing of being in that waxing parlor and Brooke makes this whole thing about, I want stability and I want a boyfriend, but nothing dramatic like you and Nathan. Like the foreshadowing there is so on point.
It's so true. Also, we probably should talk about the Chad being naked with the basketballs.
Oh my God.
Oh,
we
God.
should talk about that, Joy. You're right.
Okay, so apparently what they did was they cut a hole in the basketball for Chad.
But then wouldn't it have deflated?
I don't know.
How do basketballs
it's
work?
like paper mache. I don't know. It was some like big prop thing that they made for him.
Where does it live now? Where is said
that's a
prop
good question.
basketball now?
That's a good
It's probably in some creepy storage bin that has like a code on the front of it in a warehouse at Warner Brothers, like somewhere in the valley, and no one will ever see it again.
Jockstrap.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
This is the dick ball. It's going to be great. Yeah. Big fun episode. And we also are very lucky this episode to have one of our dear friends joining us. He was here from the jump.
Excited.
Yeah.
Yes. And so we're going to go to break, but don't go anywhere because we have a total babe waiting for you.
Hey.
Ladies and gentlemen, one of our favorite co-stars there from the very beginning. You may know him as Marvin Mouth McFadden. We know him from the Torkelsons. We know him as Minkus from Boy Meets World. He's been in so many movies at this point. He does all these David Fincher movies that put him on a level that make us all jealous.
For like 30 seconds. Right?
Whatever, Lee.
Oh, whatever.
He was in Zodiac. Also, you did like October Road with Greenberg?
Yeah.
Oh,
We had our Christmas movie, and interestingly enough, Rhoda Griffiths, who played my mother,
was in the episode.
Was just in this episode.
Was in the episode that I wasn't, by the way. I was like, I had my notebook out and I was like, where? Oh, no, I'm not in this episode.
Lee, we love you. Lee Norris, ladies and gentlemen.
It's so good to see you. It's been the last time the four of us were together, I don't even remember. It's insane, but
So long.
I know.
Was it a convention? Probably.
Maybe, but I feel like Soph and Hill, you were there, but I don't know if Joy made it. And like, Joy, I think the last time I saw you was when we did like James and Steve Coletti's like.
Yeah, that's right. Although we did talk recently when you bought Girl Scout cookies for my daughters.
Oh my
Thank
God.
you.
Those Girl Scout cookies.
You, Sophia, myself, and Brian Greenberg all got very giggly at a bar at a hotel in Wilmington the last time we did a convention together there.
yes, we did.
Remember, it was going to be like, guys, we're just going to meet for like 5 minutes. And by 2 o'clock in the morning, we had the bartender ordering us pizza. Yes. We're like, please, can you feed
We really need
They're
some
like,
carbs.
please.
That.
Oh,
Lee, are you in North
so
Carolina right now?
Yeah, I'm in North Carolina. And so weird. I was actually just in Wilmington. We went down to Wrightsville Beach like 2 weeks ago. Just for a beach vacation. And it was so trippy to be there. It coincided with the release of your first episode. So of course I'm like listening in the car as I'm driving to Wilmington and literally was like, seeing all the places and like being at Tower 7 and just feeling so cool. Really connected to it in a different way. So
Lee, how did you get the job of Mouth? Like, how did that come together for you?
Yeah, this first season was so crazy for me because, or in the pilot, I was in school at Wake Forest, which is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, for anybody that doesn't know, which is like 3.5 hours from Wilmington where we shot. And, I had done those shows as a kid and I sort of kept an agent around. But by the time I got to college, I'd seen kids like come into Boy Meets World, forget a line and get fired. And I was like, oh, wow, this is like a business. This isn't just, fun saying lines or whatever. So I, at that point, was like, well, maybe I'll go to law school. Like when I was at Wake, I thought that's what I was going to do. I was like, it's kind of like being an actor, right? You're a lawyer, you get up and you
wax poetic and
exactly.
I'm gonna
present
tell
the
story.
facts and convince everyone.
So that's what thought I was going to do. And then the audition for Ravens, One Tree Hill, got sent to my agent. I knew it was shooting in Wilmington. My agent was like, just go to Wilmington and audition. All my friends were going on spring break. They were like going to Cancun, getting wasted. And I was like, well, I'm going to Wilmington to audition for this show. I'll never hear from it, whatever. And then, I did it. And they brought me back in to, I guess, do like a chemistry read with Colin Fickus. So that was my chemistry. It was like testing, Jimmy and Mouth together. And Colin is someone that I knew. We grew up like auditioning in North Carolina together for stuff. So that's how it came about. And I have to give a lot of credit to Wake Forest. They were really cool to let me do the pilot and then to do the first season. I was recurring. So not being a regular, I didn't want to, I really wanted to graduate because it was my senior year at Wake when we were shooting the first season. So I was driving back and forth that first year between Wake and Wilmington, writing papers in the trailer all night at the River Court, driving back to Wake Forest, taking a test on like 2 hours of sleep, getting back in my car, coming back to Wilmington. But it was, it was crazy, but it was so worth it because I got to graduate and I got to do this show that I had no idea would take me 10 years of my life. So,
dude, weren't you in like an a cappella group too? I remember you being like,
remember
he was in a group?
Of course I was an a cappella nerd, Hilarie. I was.
I loved it. You'd be like, hey man, my group's performing on Thursday if you guys want to come check it out. Yeah.
Dude, our group was the first co-ed a cappella group on campus. That was like a big deal, that it was men and women. Like, this is a Southern college. Like, it was like, we were like the risky kids that like could have girls and guys in the same group. Like, what are
the risky a cappella kids? Oh my God.
What was your jam? What was the jam that you guys performed?
So we sang Sexual Healing, and I sang it as a duet with a girl, my friend Susie, and it was... My friend Susie? Yeah.
Oh my God.
So.
Had you hung out in Wilmington before?
Yeah, growing up I grew up in North Carolina. When I wasn't in LA shooting the shows, I always came back to North Carolina because this is where my family and friends were. And so I had done 2 episodes of Dawson's just as like little throwaway characters, and had gotten kind of a peek at that world and a lot of our crew. And I did all those terrible TV movies in the 90s where I was like the kidnapped and battered and abused child.
Wait, give us some names. Give us names.
Any Place called? But Home was the name of one. And I was actually kidnapped, and I didn't want to go home because Alan Thicke was my dad and he was abusing me. I mean,
oh my God.
You can't even make this stuff up. But.
Actually, that brings up a good point, because you having grown up in this business, I kind of grew up. I started when I was 12, but I think you were younger when you started, right? How old were you?
I was 9 when I did the tour.
Yeah. So you really grew up in this biz. I mean, what was that like from your perspective, coming into Wilmington and seeing a bunch of us who were like, some people who were super novice at, 17, 18. I had been around a little bit longer, but, you must have known so much more about the business and what the expectations were, and, kind of watched us stumbling through it. What was that like?
No, it was,
you were so helpful. Like,
I
know
nice
you were
of you
really
to say that. I just remember coming in and, I, again, sort of picking up on what I was just saying, watching kids get fired. Like, I came in with this it's ingrained in you as a child actor. You're like, or back then it was like, you hit your mark, your lines, you don't ruffle feathers. I just wanted to work and be there. And so I just tried to, I was always the first one in the van to go to set. Like, I didn't want to give them any reason. Yeah. Because I loved doing the show and I loved you guys. And I wanted to, the mouth was just literally a sideline character. It just had, nothing to do with the start. So I had no idea whether they would keep writing for me or not. In fact, Sophia, I remember one night we were in like I Heart New York Pizza do you remember that place?
Oh my God.
Yes.
Downtown, we'd had some drinks or whatever. And I just was convinced that they weren't bringing me back. And I was like, guys, it's been nice knowing you. I really enjoyed getting to meet you all. Like, I'm not going to see you. And you, Sophie, you're like, shut up. We're going to make them bring you back. And I was like, I have no idea. I just didn't.
I was like, you are not leaving.
That's right.
I will not allow it.
But no, it was just coming in. It was a totally different world than doing something like Boy Meets World, which was a sitcom and was so contained. And I was really inspired by you guys because I watched you, taking on these, we were still kids, really. But we were growing up really quickly and figuring out these roles and figuring out things behind the scenes. And, when I saw you guys stand up for things, I was like, oh, can we even do that? Like, that's amazing.
These girls don't know the rules.
That's what I'm like. I'm wondering if you just sat back and watched us step in landmine after landmine and you're like, whoop, can't do that.
No.
I'll never forget a day where I got really frustrated on set and we were all in our cast chairs and Lee just looked at me. It was that scene on the quad. You know which one I'm talking about. Yeah. And Lee just looked at me. He goes, well, tomorrow's a new day. Like, it was so
like I'm a 90-year-old character actor with a cigarette, like hanging on my mouth. Take it over, kid. You know what I mean? Yeah.
You'll be fine, kid.
I was totally inspired by you guys. And Hilarie, you were so sweet to me at the pilot. I remember I came in because Joy and Sophie, you guys hadn't gotten there yet. And Hill, I remember you came in and I knew you from MTV and I thought you were gorgeous and smart and just like the epitome of cool. And, I was just like number 12 on the call sheet. Like, no one had to be nice to me. And you came right up to me,
baby.
And you were like, look, my brothers don't care about Chad Michael Murray. They care about Minkus. Like, they were made me feel so at ease. And I'll always love you.
Yeah, I think I probably made you sign things. I was like, hold on, I'm going to need you to sign some stuff. Because Boy Meets World was like a huge deal when we were growing up. You were on a hit show. And like us doing the pilot of One Tree Hill, no one ever thought that would go. So you were the godfather, that had actually done it. How long did Boy Meets World run?
I think they did, I don't know, 6 or 7 seasons. But the thing about that is I only did the first season, and people don't realize that. I think they
Really?
sometimes think
Only
I was
the
there.
first?
Yeah. I mean, the thing about that character was it was so, it was such a fun and memorable character that I think people just, and then I came back later and did like an episode where they graduated from high school and they brought me back. And then when they did their reunion show, they were cool enough to bring me in. And and honestly, I have to say, I'm really glad actually that it worked out the way it did, because I don't know that I would have gotten the opportunity to do our show, to do One Tree Hill, if I'd been on that the whole time. Because you know how it is. You get locked into those roles.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys knew that we'd be out and people would scream Minkus from across the bar. And it's like,
Yeah.
If
From
I'd
one
been on
season.
the whole time, from one season, that's right. So that's what I mean. I almost feel like it was kind of fortuitous that, I wasn't just so locked in, even though I sort of am.
So the subtext here is that Lee can take a couple episodes and make an iconic character.
Are you my
That's right. Yeah, that's
He's
right.
like, what,
Why do
3
you think
scenes?
David
Let me
Fincher
steal
keeps
this
calling you?
You guys, I need to talk to you more often. In public.
Lee, were you a fan
We're
of
your hype
basketball?
girls.
That's right. Were you a basketball fan when you started? I mean, you had a lot of This was like a medical jargon or like legal jargon. The amount that you just had to like. Bah, 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 bah.
Yeah.
I mean, how was that for you?
Yeah, no, I was because I was at Wake Forest, which is a big ACC basketball school. So when I came in for the audition, I was actually wearing it was called like the Freakin' Deacons, because the Demon Deacons were our mascot. And I was into like the basketball club that like the fans that like amped out for tickets. And
You sweet little bunny.
I mean, I loved it. There was no way I was ever going to play basketball, but I loved watching it, so I was a fan, and that was, nice for me to sort of channel that and bring that into those early days when that's really all he was. And it wasn't until, like later in the season when the cheerleading and the broken mouth boy toy stuff that they really started to kind of flesh him out.
I loved that the most. That's like truly one of my favorite storylines of my whole 9 years. But I'm curious about the jargon and the lingo, like you being part of that whole basketball scene at Wake Forest.
Yeah.
Were there like college basketball reporters that you were listening to prep to like learn the way they talk, and there he goes down the line and he shoots and he's got like, it's such a way that they do that.
I probably should have been doing that, but I just watched a lot of ESPN in general, so I was
So you just knew.
And the thing about Mouth is he didn't have to be professional. Like, this was a kid who was just passionate and was sort of, he was the nerdy kid who was trying to find his voice. So I think the great thing was I didn't have to be perfect at it. There was room to kind of be like a novice about it. I think it was just enough that I sort of naturally enjoyed watching the game. But yeah, it was a lot. And like sitting on that picnic bench at the river court, my ass was like chafed after sitting there all, we'd be out there like all night.
17
All
hours.
night.
Yeah.
17
It's
hours.
like insta bonding. There's no other business I can think of where it's like this. I mean, maybe in military, I don't know, where you just get thrown in with people, a bunch of people you don't know, and all of a sudden you're up all night together. You're spending long hours and like lots of time sitting around, lots of time just quietly available to talk, and it's really cool. Did you feel, because you were there for all those river court nights and everything, that was your gig, so did you feel like you were able to really connect in with the whole group, or did you feel like so what was your experience like in the first season?
Those, I don't know about you guys, but those were always my favorite scenes, when they got all of us together and we just got, it was 3 a.m. and we're just,
Goofy.
Cullen Moss is singing like the theme song to the Golden Girls, and we're just like we're, that was the most fun. And I feel like, and what really struck me, because your podcast has inspired Andrea and I, we've gone back and started watching it now, because we're like, we're watching all these other shows in quarantine and stuff. So, we started going back, and so we watched the pilot this weekend and up through this episode. And it's just so crazy to me, like to see, especially in this episode, you see so much of downtown at the river walk and all of that. And to think that was the backdrop for our show, but that was the backdrop for our real lives too. So it's like, I'm seeing the steps that they're sitting on for the burning boat thing. And like, that's the steps that we were like, kind of buzzed on at 2 a.m. talking about
Greenberg
life.
playing a guitar.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So it's just so surreal. But yeah, those are by far my favorite scenes, you know.
Lee, were there any like misconceptions about Mouth? Anything that, you know, people maybe didn't quite understand about him, or anything that you really felt you wanted people to understand about him?
I don't know. You know, I mean, I think as far as Mouth, I think what's interesting about him is you see him as sort of the nice guy, and yet he was written in a different time. And I think this is true about all of our characters, right? I mean, there was things that were written for him that now when I go back and look at it, I'm like, oh, I don't know if he should have walked up to Brooke and just kissed her without asking at the high school. You know what I mean? It's like,
God bless you, Lee.
I don't know. There's just things like that. But, you know, at the same time, we're making a TV show. And if we all just did the right thing all the time, it would be boring. So I understood that it was like heightened and different. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. There was things where he like threw the brick at the windshield of Brooke's car. And I was like, where does this come from? You know what I mean? It's like, I'm reading the script and yet I'm like, here's the child actor in me, like, got to keep this job. So I'm just going to do whatever.
Yeah.
Or just like, you know, Hilarie, like in the later season, Mouth is like in a fat suit. And I was like, what is this? Like,
I had no idea.
It just
Lee
took a turn
told me
sometimes.
about this.
Yeah.
Just like,
I forgot.
you know, we did our Christmas movie a couple years ago and we're all staying in like a Hampton Inn in Louisiana, and Lee would come over at the end of the workday and we'd just talk about stuff that same way, like we've all kind of decompressed together. And Lee's like, oh yeah, do you remember like when Mouth was in a fat suit? And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I totally missed all of that.
Yeah. So these aren't so much misconceptions. It's just, I think that he can be viewed through a different lens now. And my hope is that I always, no matter what was written, I always wanted people to see his real heart, that he wanted to be a loyal and good friend. Whether he always did the right thing is definitely up for debate. But I hope that, because it was important for me to be on the show. I mean, there was pushback when they went to make me a regular. The network was like, well, he doesn't look like a model. And I was like, come on, guys. Like, you know, how many Janes and Chads do you need? Like, I thought what was cool about our show was that it was a little more grounded, and it was nice to see a human face looking back. And so I've always, of course, been protective of him because I spent so long playing him. But, you know, I understand that there are people that can feel differently about him. So
did the writers ever, like, did you have input with the writers when at some point as you stayed longer and got more comfortable, like just being there and being a part and really became a part of the show? Were there times when the writers would come to you and be like, hey, would you have any ideas or things like that?
No. That did not happen. And again, I think it all stems from that, just how I was raised. So like, I'm just going to see this through. And I do want to be careful too. There are writers on the show that I love and that I'm friends with. Yeah. And listen, coming up with storylines for all of these characters for 9 years.
Yeah. A lot of spinning plates.
It's no wonder that I ended up in a fat suit. Like, I mean, you know, at some point, what are you going to do for these characters? So I want to be careful and say, I loved playing him. He was a great character. He got to do funny stuff. He got to do drama. So, you know, I'm grateful for that. But
Mouth was special because he was the everyman. You know what I mean? Like Mouth represented every kid in high school that wasn't captain of the basketball team, wasn't captain of the cheerleading squad. Yeah. Like, he's an important person for our fan base to be able to connect to. Right. However, Mouth pulled chicks. Like, every chick on the show had a Mouth episode. I know. Is what I'm saying.
I never.
We had our go-kart rendezvous.
We did.
You and Soph had, what was you and Soph's? What was your romance? What'd you guys do? Limo?
I took Mouth to a strip club.
Oh, right. Right.
We had like a night in a limo. We were all dressed up. Oh God, I can't wait to get to that episode and figure out what in God's name we were doing. But I just remember that Lee and I were both so uncomfortable. And, you know, this had to be Brooke Davis's idea.
Of course.
And and I am like, what is happening? And the writers were like, yeah, it's going to be great. And I was like, I feel really uncomfortable. And you, sweet angel, you were like, this feels, I don't know. And you just kept putting your hands up because like you didn't want the girls to think you were going to try to touch them. And so the girls that had been hired to like be these, I mean, they were strippers. Yeah. Who were hired to come on the show, drew us little notes and smiley faces on their pasties.
I totally forgot about that. You're right.
Pasty faces?
so they wore pasties because like they knew we were just.
They wrote notes
out.
on their pasties?
Yeah. Like,
so
hi,
I did
love
that
the show.
once.
Like, little spot. What? Joy?
I had no idea that was a stripper thing.
How did this story work around to Joy saying I did that once?
When were you wearing pasties in someone's
In the
lap?
back of a
What's
high school
happening?
boy's car.
No, it was not One Tree Hill. It was a pilot I did later, and I had to do my first like sex scene, and I had pasties on, and I just did in glitter, like up here with arrows, like up on one and here on the
Like,
other.
look at my face.
Yeah,
please.
and then
Oh my
Stop It
God.
was another one.
Oh
Lee, you
my
had multiple
God.